Alrighty. So we got another reading here. So let's just make sure everything's looking good. Okay, that is loaded. Okay, I want to just check one thing. Okay, so obviously you've been through a breakup, so I just wrote she went through breakup, focus on love. Obviously I'm going to talk about everything, but yeah. Let's see here. Okay, so let's go ahead and share this. So you can see the chart. So we got Cancer rising with Venus rising. Okay. The moon in the second house with the sun. So double Leo. Interesting. The moon is the ruling planet, and it's exact conjunct Jupiter. And you got Mercury close by. So a little stellium there in Leo. North Node in Virgo, I just had one, conjunct Saturn, so that's very, very clear. This is my third, like literally, I know that there's at least a few people who watch my readings, all of them, and whoever's watching, guys, come on. This is the third South Node in Pisces in a row. Like this stuff has happened to me my whole astrology career, if you want to call it a career. Like that is just it's just no coincidence, it's just like, you weren't even like next on the list. I just picked yours, and I mean you were pretty much tied for who was next. So that is very interesting. I mean, right off the rip, it's just like an obvious indication of someone who is one second, I'm kind of standing up and doing things while I'm talking, but yeah, someone who's trying to become more grounded in this reality, and with the second house placement of the sun and the moon and all that Leo energy in the second house, it's pretty interesting too. Makes me think of the word self-esteem. And then you got Mars in Gemini in the 12th house. And Moon square Uranus and Chiron. Are they together? Nope. So it's a T-square, which goes out at 15 Aquarius. The North Node, 8th house. Okay. And then Sun, nothing really besides, okay. Mercury has a square with the same squares, Uranus and Chiron. Venus is unaspected. Interesting. I've had a lot of those. Mars opposite Neptune. All right. Well, right off the bat, so you're born. I don't know what the phase is called, but the new moon had just happened. Like what? It had happened about a day and a half ago, right? And that means that I'm wondering, like, was that new moon? It must have been at like 0 degrees Leo, because the moon moves every day what, 12 degrees? Or is that wrong? 8 degrees. No, that's wrong too. I should know this, obviously. It's 12 degrees. Yeah. So that means that, yeah, it was a new moon at the very start of Leo. And then like a day and a half passed and you were born. So if we think about, the energy after a new moon, especially at the start of a sign, it's very soothing. It's definitely an energy, and just the fact that the moon caught up with those other planets is very interesting to me. Jupiter, conjunct moon in Leo is going to make someone like an internal optimist, someone who probably has trouble seeing the negative in situations. Like it's a very, very, very good placement. Kind of like the glass is half full, not half empty. And so usually usually I talk about, like what's the relationship between the sun and the moon. Well, here it's pretty obvious because they're the same sign. So being born on like or close to a new moon, it has to do with new beginnings. The fact that the new moon had just passed and it had caught up, the moon had caught up with some other planets, speaks to the momentum, some karmic momentum, and it's what degree is it? 15. Yeah, so it's at 15 and a fixed. So when I see a fixed moon at 15 degrees, I think 15 is smack in the middle, so it can be a little bit, I would say, stubborn. Not that you're, this is why I always tell everyone that they should put the camera back on for a little bit. I always go back and forth, camera, no camera. But yeah, that's kind of why I tell everyone about doing the follow-up because, this I go deep into your chart here, but the follow-up is really where we can compare what I say here with your lived experience. Most people do this, then the follow-up, and then the current astrology reading. The current astrology reading is a live reading. It's completely different. It's like a whole different type of astrology. It's like, this is like the book of your life. That's like the chapter of now. And I use some of my counseling acumen, and it's an interesting reading. Just want you to keep that in mind. That's kind of like that's what I recommend to everyone. If they're able to do it financially, or if they have the desire to do it, I always recommend that. But let's start one thing at a time. So yeah, with all that Leo energy, obviously, shining and authentic self-expression is very important. Now, let me see, is your Chiron and okay, it's over there. So I do see you have Mercury retrograde natal too, so that would make it so that when Mercury retrograde happens in real life, you probably feel more at ease. It's kind of interesting. But overall, when you have your sun, like I said before, when you have your sun and your moon, both in Leo, it's like if like I just had a session. I just did a reading where there's a massive what's the word? I always forget the word in psychology. Difference, I guess you could say, but like a split. There was a massive split in his makeup, and between his sun and Leo and his moon in Pisces, but when you have your sun and your moon both in the same sign, and my camera's off right now. Sometimes I need to walk around and stuff when I do these, and just walking is good for the brain. At least it's good for me for thinking. It's always been that way. So I'll kind of flicker in and out. But yeah, the way I see that is that for you, it's like if you were a ship, right? If you were a ship with two captains, it's kind of a weird metaphor, but it makes sense. You would be going in one direction, right? Now, Cancer is a sign that comes before Leo, and I think it is a very good compliment, to be honest, because Leo can be very. I don't really like to go into the sun sign, but Leo's a fire sign. It's very out there, and all about Leo. I mean, come on, you're a quadruple Leo, or yeah, we could call it a quadruple Leo. We could put Jupiter in there, even though it's a middle planet, but definitely I mean, I don't know how if you would say double Leo or triple Leo because it's Mercury, and yeah, just you're a big time Leo. And the Cancer with Venus rising is very interesting to me because it gives a sort of grounding to the chart. It gives a sort of you're very approachable, right? Some Leos can be Leo risings. I'm a Leo rising. It's not there's definitely a friendly energy, and when I say intimidating, I don't mean intimidating in the sense of oh my God, I think they're gonna kill me or scary, but they can catch me on, but they can sometimes put out an energy of superiority. I don't know how to explain it. Leo risings without even trying to, and being a Cancer rising, because your rising is how you come off, right? So it's or not how you come off, it's your mask, it's your personality, it's how you act, how you talk. I'm not how you talk. It's your outer personality. It's the vehicle through which you travel this lifetime, right? To have that in a very down to earth sign like Cancer, it's gonna make people gravitate towards you a lot. Now, to add to that, the fact that Venus, the planet of love, the planet of luxury, the planet of everything that is nice, is rising. First of all, whenever you have any planet on an angle, specifically the ascendant and the midheaven, these planets become extra strong. So when you have Venus rising in Cancer, which is a nice Venus sign, it's very, very good for the arts. Sorry, I'm just moving around over here, but it's very good for those purposes. It accentuates that, and it kind of makes it so even though you're a Cancer rising, there's this real attractiveness to you, like Venus risings, they attract, because Venus is a manifesting. It's a divine feminine energy that manifests and attracts. It attracts, and I'm not, when I say attracts, Felix, come on, sorry, Felix. When I say attracts, I'm not necessarily just talking about physical attraction. I'm talking about and I'm not only talking about attraction in the sense of attracting a mate romantically. I'm saying it's very, very good for popularity, really good for popularity. Especially being Cancer, it gives people who know you or who don't even know you, who just meet you, this feeling like they can trust you, right? Which is so valuable in any kind of work. I know, and don't worry, I'm gonna get to a lot of the love stuff. I know you've been through a breakup, so don't you worry. But yeah, overall, it's a beautiful energy. It's And by the way, I've seen no photos of you. I don't know what you look like. I say this every reading. I purposely do that so that I don't have a preconceived notion of how you are based on an Instagram photo. It's my thing. But, in my experience, people who have Venus rising or women who have Venus rising are usually quite beautiful. There's usually a level of elegance to them. And they're usually quite creative and usually very, very sociable. And, the fact that it's in Cancer, but you have all this, that you are this Leo moon and Leo sun and Mercury and Jupiter, it makes it so like I like how it mixes basically. Like I like how it mixes. I like how it kind of, how do you say it? Like, I don't want to say it dims the Leo because that's like a negative connotation, but it definitely doesn't make it makes it so the Leo is not like overwhelming. Because sometimes like imagine if you had a Leo rising also on top of this, you'd be very imbalanced potentially. Like you'd have too much Leo, which in astrology we talk about the four elements, right? We talk about how optimally you'd like to have all four elements present somewhere in your chart in some way. And of course, like many people don't, like myself, I don't have any earth. And we find when we don't have an element, we find ways around it. We find, okay, so I don't have earth. What can I do to help that out? Like what, like what can I do? So for you, as I get back to my computer, there's air, there's water with a Cancer, there's fire, and I'm searching for the earth. I've had a lot of readings now with no earth. It's always so interesting. I have I always have all these readings and they're just like they're all so similar. So yeah, like no earth, like me. So basically, when you have a lot of fire and no earth, and when I say no earth, I'm talking about the big six, like the sun, moon, rising, and the Venus, Mars, and Mercury. Those are like the planets that rule conscious parts of our personality. Jupiter is kind of like a middle planet, but it's also in fire. So when you lack earth, it can be really difficult to find that balance. And it can be difficult to kind of be the same person day after day. You know how some people, they can just wake up and like it's not like they're robots or anything, but like their moods are pretty constant. Like they can kind of go to work and it's not an issue, but at the same time, and I'm not saying anything bad about people who have a ton of earth, but like it can be a little bit stagnant, let's just say, if you have a lot of earth. Now, if you have a lot of fire like yourself, it's the opposite. You're loads of fun. You're all about adventure. You're all about, the highest energy of Leo is about authentic self-expression, which I'll get into. The difference between, these types of creative expression. But lacking earth, things you can do to kind of help you with that. Of course, meditation is the best, most likely. Another really good one is getting out in nature. Gardening is one. Anything that involves you embodying, like yoga, right? Because like yoga is actually a really, really good one for you because you have a lot of fire. So when you have a lot of fire, you're naturally gonna like kind of need like a physical release. If that makes sense. Like I was just saying this in the last reading. What's your birth year? Let me just check. 79. Okay, so like yeah, like I was saying, and this has mostly applied to like people, some of my younger clients born like in the 90s. Like I found that people have a lot of fire. Sometimes they will smoke a lot of like the green stuff. um if they're not like engaged in like some type of like physical release, right? So obviously like yoga is, it kind of, I really hate the expression kill two birds with one stone, but you know, it achieves two things at the same time. So that is obviously very good. Um, Now with your moon, right? So moon in Leo requires a lot of attention. It's a well-known, well-documented, right? Leo moons, they I don't want to say they like being the center of attention, like where everyone like in that sense, because it's not always true. They're ultra like competitive. They're ultra competitive. They're ultra passionate. They you know they are super spirited in the sense that they can like recover. They're very brave and passionate. They can recover from, you know, if it's a heartbreak or an injury or a setback. Like they're fixed in their kind of attitude towards life, right? But when you throw in the square to Chiron, because the moon, you know, it represents like the mother in the chart typically. Um, that could, in I look at the sun, I see. So if the moon is your mother and the sun is your father, I'm gonna turn my camera back on, which often is the case. Um, it can kind of create an energy where there's some issues. Let me see the nodes. There's some issues with the mother, right? Um, Now there are some very positive aspects too. So it could be kind of like there's good and bad. But Moon square Uranus, right? Over there in the fifth house is it kind of it can make someone bored quite easily, like very emotionally rebellious. Like they can tend to just want to like in relationships, especially like if there's any sign of like over cleanness or anything like that, they can kind of feel like they're like in jail, you know, like in within a relationship, which is a crazy concept, right? But yeah, moon and Uranus, it's just all about like there can definitely be this kind of like nervous tension, unpredictable emotions that go up and down. Um yeah, very temperamental, changeable, and expect the unexpected kind of energy, right? Of course, like squares, you know, you people tend to challenge or like be more challenged with them earlier in life, and then they can actually, they're meant to become like superpowers. Like they're not meant to just like be like difficult aspects, squares and oppositions, right? So with this one, um, to me, it speaks to like within the context, let's say, of relationships, because I feel like you have you really want to know like my take on like what a good relationship would look like for you. So I'm going to try to give you that while also give you all the other cosmic download. But yeah, with Uranus, you know, it definitely there's a need for some level of excitement. Um, changeability, like someone who like you wouldn't do well with a boring person, let's just say. I mean, you know, you're a Leo. Leo is like a very fun, gregarious zodiac sign. And it's you know, it's about it's adventurous. You know, all fire signs are very adventurous, and they, you know, the Leo, it wants to it needs to find a way to express itself. So within a relationship, authenticity is a key word. So then we look at that square with Chiron, right? Which is over here in 11th house. And that can speak to, and that one is 2 degrees, and this one is 1 degree. So it's a very tight one here. This one is very, very tight, the Uranus and the Moon. But basically, like with a Chiron, there can be this sort of this pain that's come from, and like I said, like the Moon usually is the mother, but the Moon represents traditionally the parent who's less dominant in the life, right? Who played like the role of the nurturer, right? So Chiron in square to the Moon means that there's some type of pain, and we get clues as to what that pain is in relation to the early childhood or the mother. And what can happen is a Leo Moon. I said Leo, like people don't know how sensitive Leos are. Like Leo's a very sensitive sign. It doesn't really, like, it's kind of like an unknown fact for a lot of people. I think because Leos, they have this, this shell. And I think the fact that you're Cancer rising helps kind of, because that's like what people see. It kind of gives people the idea that, you are, the sensitive person. That's a good thing, right? But basically, yeah, with Chiron, there's definitely some pain there. And like there's a need to heal that pain in order to kind of be able to feel emotionally fulfilled, because Moon in Leo, right, it feels emotionally fulfilled when it's creating something, right, where it's move. Like Leo is a sign of authentic self-expression, which I was talking about earlier, where like the different, like low Leo is like, I need to create something just for the views or for people to like me. I need to be like this version, fit into this box. High Leo is like, through my own creativity, right? And this is where the T square goes into. I'll show you how this looks in the chart. 1 second. So no. So square here, square there. It's like a bow and arrow that shoots into the 8th house in Aquarius. 8th house is death, rebirth, transformation. It's the archetype of Scorpio, right? Which, you don't have any Scorpio. You have your Uranus, but that doesn't really count in the sense that it's on a personal planet. But basically, what it's asking, and you have also Pluto in the 4th house, so that would speak of like a potentially traumatic, some type of trauma in the childhood, something that really left a mark. That, and supposing, let's see, basically, like, yeah, it left a mark, and it can hold you back in a sense, right? So there's lots of healing with this chart that's needed. But as I was saying, yeah, the Leo Moon, it feels good when it's on the run, when it's creating, when it's really being itself. Like that's kind of the essence, like inner child, right? Leo is the inner child. So the wrong kind of relationship for like someone with this type of energy would be one where they felt like they couldn't express their true being, right? Where, for example, like they were kind of expected to be a certain way. And the Uranus, it's all about freedom. So when you turn it into, when you look at, okay, where this T square lands over here in the 8th house, Aquarius mixed with 8th house, it's like really all about that complete authenticity, right? 100% authenticity, like not trying to be anyone, like really, really diving deep into your kind of darkness, I guess you could say, into your shadow. It's really asking you to do a lot of shadow work in this lifetime. Now, what I mean by that is kind of realizing that the moon, obviously is what makes us, it's kind of like what makes us feel secure, how we feel secure, how we feel safe, and we need, whatever our moon sign and aspects and house and all that says is like what it's like, we need that in order to feel secure, feel happy. So, on one hand, with and there's also conjunctions I have to talk about with Jupiter and Mercury, but basically the chart's asking you to like really like go deep into yourself and to find that authentic self-expression, to find whether it's through like some type of creative mean, or anything that like gets you more into you. Because Aquarius is a water bearer. It's a sign of the one that's different. It's a sign of the one that doesn't abide by the laws of society, of what it's supposed to be. So that's, a lot of feeling there. But also, your moon is conjunct Jupiter. So, so the moon conjunct Jupiter, that's speaking to how there's a big need, like people who have moon conjunct Jupiter, typically it's almost like a Sag moon energy, like where they have this like inner well of optimism, right? And even during like tough times, they're able to bounce back, right? They're able to bounce back. They're able to kind of always see like the bright side. Of course, there's things that happen in life where it can be impossible, and that's kind of what it sounds like from what I wrote down in my notes. And I think a lot of that boils down to like the kind of partner. So besides that, there's also Mercury, right? Mercury right here is conjunct the moon. So Mercury, when it conjuncts the moon, it's very good for intuition. It's very good for being able to speak, to have a connection between your throat chakra and your heart chakra, right? Like, but the thing about your Mercury is that it's retrograde. You see, it's retrograde natally. So that can kind of make it so there's a level of shyness, there's a level of like internal dialogue, and Mercury is square Uranus. Yeah, so like what can happen there, I'll go back to the camera. So what can happen there is that at some point in life, so usually people who have natal Mercury retrograde, let's say they have like a different kind of learning style when they're younger, right? They like, maybe they're like in a school, but maybe they're more like right brain, right? And a lot of times they don't get the intellectual connections, or the like kind of like their needs aren't met on like a like in school, for example, like it just like their learning styles are different. So sometimes they can internalize this idea that they're not smart when they're young, right? Or that there's something wrong with their way of thinking. And so Mercury also, like I said, conjuncting the moon, it's a talent in being able to really speak about your emotions and be in touch with your emotions on like a cognitive level. But you have to watch out for the tendency to potentially, I guess you could say, use too much logic and not feel into the emotions enough, right? Like, the idea of like the person who goes to therapy year after year, and they just talk and talk and talk and talk, but nothing really changes because they're just talking about it. They're not actually doing, because everything is energy, right? So like when the energy work is not being done, like for example, like energy work could be like crying, or like writing, even doing things like because I do counseling too. If you're ever interested, I do astrological based counseling, and I'll do things because I have 2 masters in psychology. Like for example, like writing a letter to someone that you have a resentment towards, and never actually sending the letter and burning the letter, and kind of like that being like a rite of passage. That's like an example, right? But this is the thing. So I think that you're potentially a hidden genius, and this is what I mean by that. So when Mercury is square Uranus, right, it really kind of sets you apart from the pack in the sense that you have a different way of seeing reality, of communicating, of thinking. And, you can have a very brilliant mind, but because the Mercury is retrograde, it makes it more difficult to let that out. Like it can create lots of like overthinking, overanalyzing, which, can have difficult relationship implications, right? Also, because Uranus is like this very like eccentric planet, there can be like sometimes like these like provocative ideas that can lead, it can upset others and lead to like relationship difficulties, right? So one thing with this, it can kind of sometimes like with Mercury and Uranus, there can be like I don't like to like say like ADHD, but like it can, there can be like trouble with like listening, right? It can be very like very talkative, very like an energy where it's like very like ungrounded in the sense of having issues with listening and concentrating, being easily distracted, stuff like that. And also like misunderstandings, right? So like misunderstandings. So like while you may be very, very high up in like the abstract type of thinking and like this very like future oriented, like ahead of your time type of thinking, like with basic like relationships, it can kind of create issues. And also it's very controversial, right? So yeah, it can create someone who has kind of a shock value to the way they speak and the way that they think. So there's definitely like a level of like self-control that's needed, and discriminating between like like what's right to say, what's wrong to say. What else about that one? So I think another thing about this is that it's very like there can be like kind of like an abrupt way of speaking that can sometimes like offend people, but also it's an energy that likes to challenge other people's ideas, right? And it can be argumentative as well. And sometimes it doesn't always look, because Leo is so prideful, right? It doesn't always look at like the other side. It can be quite stubborn. I said before that it was at what was it 15? Yeah, 15-degree moon can be in a fixed sign like Leo can be quite stubborn and not open, not willing to like kind of like see, like hear the other person out. So because of that, there can be, and Uranus is all about change and kind of like wanting the new shiny thing, or it can get bored easily. So that's like a big clue to like your relationship life is that you need a lot of freedom, right? You definitely need a lot of freedom. And if you don't get that, there can be difficulty like maintaining these like long-term relationships, right? And yeah, also usually it's like I think that people that have this are usually pretty funny. My experience, like a quirky sense of humor, so that's another thing. Like that I would think would be very important. Would be to have kind of like not only like an intellectual link with the person, like where you're really like, on the same page with lots of ideas and worldview and stuff like that, but also like where you guys laugh at the same stuff. It's very important. Now with the Mercury in Chiron, which is even closer, that goes back to what I was saying earlier about some kind of pain revolving around because of your different way of thinking, your different way of speaking, your different way of you can look at my posts on Instagram. Like I talk about Mercury and Uranus. Like I usually talk about the conjunction, but um, it creates a different kind of mind, different kind of way of thinking. So that requires a different kind of person, right? Logically. So yeah, that's kind of like that. And then when you add the moon to that, I mean, it's just like, Leo moons, they require just it's just a high level of attention, right? They definitely require a high level of attention, and like they like to be seen. Like they need to feel seen in relationships. Um and kind of like the relationship needs to have, like with all the things I already said, there also needs to be a level of like playfulness, a level of like literally just like childish fun. Like it needs to feel like there's like no borders, like you're not walking on eggshells in any way. You can say whatever you want, act however you want, and you're not judged for it. Because some relationships, they just don't work. People are just so different. They have such different, I do compatibility readings, and I see this sometimes where it's just like the people have just such different worldviews and ways of kind of approaching life. So yeah, definitely a lightness is needed in that case. And yeah, so Leo's second house. When you add the second house, that is all about some people talk about second house as being like money. I think of it as being more based on values. And like with the sun in the second house, it's really important to like find a set of values which you can like judge your own and others, I guess, behavior and just overall like you have a set of values, right? And then you're able to kind of like make your decisions based off of those, right? But also you have to watch out for not becoming like overly critical of others. If they fail to live up to expectations. And second house, like it likes luxury. Leo likes luxury, and second house likes luxury, likes things to be nice, possessions, stuff like that. But the challenge is to value yourself no matter what the external situation is. But with the moon there, it's definitely there's definitely like an emotional security that comes from being financially secure. But what can happen, because the moon is up and down, and you do have the second Jupiter there. So Jupiter in the second house, I always call it like the financial guardian angel. So that's like a very good placement. But even with that, like the moon can kind of make things go up and down, and it goes back to those inner resources, like finding those inner resources that you can kind of like, meditation is the best example, right? Finding those inner, not mental, inner resources that you can always go back to in any situation, and they help you. So, that's very important. Let's see here. The moon, a nice trine with Neptune. That's just like gives one like a very powerful imagination, interest in the occult, like very artistic. So you're able to like really create. Like if I don't know if you're an artist or something, but that's definitely, Leos are here to create, right? But overall, I think like with like your South Node, which rules kind of your past life tendency, that it's not a bad thing. It's just like the been there, done that, and the fact that's in Pisces in ninth house is it's actually very similar to me, because it's like ninth house of Sagittarius, but it's like I'm a Pisces Sag, but it's like you've been someone who's very philosophical, mystical. You brought a lot of these gifts in this lifetime, but you're being pushed to be more. I mean, first of all, Saturn conjunct the North Node shows that you're dealing with a lot of karma in this lifetime. But the fact that they're in Virgo, which is a very practical sign, is indicating that in this lifetime you're trying to create something tangible, because there could have been like past lives where it was more spent in like the dreamland, or kind of like different, like not not really like having all these like amazing abilities but not putting them to work. So when you see this, you think, okay, how can this individual take what they've learned, take like these, and that's why I just got done doing this reading where I was telling the guy, like, you have to just like try a bunch of different things. You just have to try a bunch of different things. But this energy, it's pushing you towards being a structured individual, right? It's pushing you towards being organized in your daily affairs, organized in the sense of like your mission, right? And everyone has a different mission, and it's always multifaceted. But when I see Pluto down there in the fourth, and I see some of these aspects of the moon, I think, like the step one is like this continuous shadow work that has to be done, and when I see Chiron aspecting the moon in any way, I think, like a square, especially, like it's someone who's meant to be a healer in some type of way. It doesn't mean that your job has to revolve around healing other people, but you're basically you were meant to go through what you went through in order to be able to help other people go through similar challenges. So more on the love stuff. So when I look at this part of the chart, the 12th house, I see Mars in Gemini and Juno in Gemini. So 12th house is like it's an interesting house. It's very karmic, but in this context, when Mars is in the 12th house in Gemini, it can speak more to this need for diversity, this need for change, this need for fun, and for what's the word? Like, yeah, I guess diversity, right? It's a very curious energy. Also, like, people who have Mars in Gemini, like, they are very talented with their words. They love, learning and reading and doing anything that involves the voice or the written word. Like, it can make great lawyers. But it's opposite Neptune, first of all. But it can also, in the 12th house, put my face back again. In the 12th house, it can be, that I refer to the 12th house a lot as the house of repressed energies. And what I mean by that is that like self-sabotaging, especially Mars, which is the planet of action, right? What can happen is that if it's in Gemini and something, you know, like, you know, with that square we talked about, right? With Moon square Uranus. Let me have to sip my tea. With Moon square Uranus, you know, there's already this need for fun, for stimulation, for all those things I mentioned, and very rebellious. So you're going to need a lot of freedom within relationships, right? And someone who's very, very patient and very, very understanding and compassionate. And that's kind of like the 12th house is ruled by Pisces, because Juno here, Juno represents like the ideal mate, right? It's the best way to think of Juno. So in Gemini, I'm not saying that your ideal mate's Gemini, but in the 12th house, you know, that makes it so your relationships are very, very fated. And you'll really want to have this kind of spiritual relationship where you can like merge with your partner. But one of the best possible things for you is to be of service in some type of way, right? That's like if it's through your work, your midheaven is in Pisces, so that's like goes perfectly with what I was saying. Your midheaven, which rules Neptune, right? So you have a Neptune ruled midheaven. So what that kind of shows is that, like with Mars opposite Neptune, it can create an energy where, like you, sorry, I keep scratching. I like my cat's hair all over me. Where you can kind of be your own worst enemy, and in the sense that like you might interpret someone else's actions in the wrong way, right? But I'll get more into that in a second. I want to kind of finish with Juno. So like Juno and Gemini, it's all about, yeah, it's like wanting variety and stimulation in relationships, right? And it's also really wanting this like at the same time, this like intellectually stimulating relationship where you guys can have like long conversations, even debates, like very strong communication with the partner is what's needed. But then the 12th house, it's like, you know, about like merging and then having this like this deep spiritual relationship. Now Mars, on the other hand, in the 12th house, it can make someone feel like their sense of personal power is somewhat like, what's the word, eroded, I guess, a little bit, like there's like something there, right? And what happens with 12th house Mars, I've seen this firsthand, is that there can be these like out of nowhere emotional outbursts, which would come from the Moon square Uranus, which is why, and when you have no Earth in your chart, that's why this need to develop, right? Even your Chiron in Taurus, it's asking you to get in better, get like in touch with like your mind body connection, right? And also it speaks of this, of how, you know, these sets of values, right? Or your value system, self-esteem, it's typical for like self-esteem issues, right? Which could have easily been rooted from that Mercury retrograde square, Chiron itself, right? So whatever internalized messages you have about like, you know, your way of thinking, your way of being. And if we do a follow-up, you can definitely like remind me about this group I have that might be a benefit to you, but I'm top secret with it. You have to remind me. But yeah, like, you know, your Chiron in the 11th house is speaking to how a lot of change, a lot of growth, a lot of healing can come in groups of like-minded people, right? But yeah, definitely your chart is like very like heavy on like the shadow work and the healing. And with Leo moons, like you got to watch out for, you know, putting too much attention on, you know, what the other person's doing, or like what they're giving you, right? And there's this, I know plenty of Leo moons. My mom's Leo moon, my friend Danielle's Leo moon, and what can happen is that there can be too much of a reliance on like the other person. Now it's not, and I don't mean that like kind of like Libra where it's like codependent, but like yeah, of course you need relationships where there's like a lot of love, and there's like I want to find something in this book. A lot of love and and Cancer Venus is your love language is emotions, right? So there's all these energies. You see how there's all these different energies when it comes to your love life, right? On one hand, we have this energy of like of stimulation and change, right? That's one, and the need to communicate and have like an intellectual connection, and also like a spiritual one. And I think the spiritual one goes hand in hand with the emotional one, right? With the Venus and Cancer. But yeah, with the Mars, we're really going to get into this Mars opposite Neptune. That can be problematic, right? Because it's like it can just like when you get bored, and because the moon is so unconscious, the Mars in the 12th house can act as this trigger to just do shit. Like I've known people that have this, and they just like do shit. I don't even know how else to explain it. They just do self-sabotaging stuff in relationships that kind of screws them over. Out, and it's usually out of the blue, and yeah. So yeah, like emotional outbursts, but like a lot of times, like with it being in Gemini, it can come from a lack of communication. So communication, excuse me. A sec. Is an extremely important word for you because it's different. Because you're a Mercury retrograde natal, so square Uranus. So you're going to have a very ingenious, as I said before, way of understanding the world and communicating with people around you. This, that, and the third. So that's very, very important to find that the individual who gets that. So I think one word that came to my mind is curiosity and flexibility. Not for you, for who you might be into. But with other aspects of your chart, I'm gonna show it again just for the sake of kind of understanding. Your descendant, 222, my number, is in Capricorn, right? Your 7th house cusp is in Capricorn, which the 7th house cusp is like kind of what we look for in other. So basically, when I see that, I think, okay, well, Capricorn is very dependable. It's very you kind of know what you're going to get. So there's also a level of that, and that is completely linked to your North Node journey of Saturn, of Virgo Saturn, right? North Node in Virgo conjunct Saturn in Virgo, right? In the 3rd house. So what I mean by that, 3rd house is communication. Surprise, surprise. So in relationships, the best way to succeed is through getting through like the barriers in communication. So let me go further into this. So being able to express yourself and not be afraid and not think that like I don't want to say like you're like not be afraid of like feeling like a weirdo or an outsider. Like that's the first step, is that you're a very particular type of person, so you're going to require a very particular type of person. Now, let's see here. Yeah, so that's very interesting to me, is that on one hand, as I said before, there's that stimulation thing, that need for freedom, that need for probably like a unconventional relationship. But then there's a split, and and then also but then there's parts where like with the Venus in in Cancer, where it's way more about that emotional closeness and being able to have those deep emotional conversations, right? So it is a lot. And then with the moon, learning to not need as much attention, I guess you could say, right? And I think with this much fire, and like when I say attention, I mean like being able to like be your own like giver of that in some ways, right? And when you have a lot of fire in your chart, you can see down here, it's like a lot of fire. It can make one very impulsive, right? It can make one impulsive. And when you have Mars, Mars and Gemini in the 12th house, that impulsivity that comes from being a Leo can just like, boom, it's just like out of nowhere, something happens, right? Something happens. And, because the moon is it's like what it's the unconscious. It's like what you're not necessarily aware of. It can feel like it's coming from nowhere. But with Pluto, where it is in the 4th house, ruling like, like a childhood, a potential like volcanic early home environment, like, or some like kind of like childhood trauma. That's always seeding beneath the surface, even if it's not apparent, right? So, yeah, definitely like the need for like having, a very emotionally close relationship while there's also independence, also, like a mix of like spirituality slash like, emotional, spiritual, and intellectual connection, right? And then the descendant in Capricorn is like, that speaks to this final part of the puzzle where it's like wanting someone who you don't even have to doubt, right? You don't even have to, because like you need that variety, you need that fun, but then you also need that that person where 100% like who they are, who they're going to be day after day. So when you don't have Earth in your chart, and I don't ever prescribe like zodiac signs, like you should date this zodiac sign or this one or that one. Earth could be something, not too much, but like, Earth, Taurus, Capricorn, Virgo, that could benefit you because, like a empathetic kind of Earth person, and there's lots of Capricorn Sun people from, I guess, it's kind of like a little bit out of your, it's like more of my generation, but still like, there are Earth, like people who have Earth in their chart who also have, these other elements that you'd be looking for, right? But overall, I think that like by really going in, and maybe you've done this work already, right? But by one, healing, like going through like the surrender that's needed when you go through like the death, rebirth, and transformation that kind of takes you from here to here. It's not pleasant, but it's needed. Confronting whatever this is in the childhood. If there are issues with the mother, like whether it's done directly or not, like healing that is going to have a direct impact on the relationships. So I need to shave my beard. It shall be done. Okay, so Neptune, 18 degrees, Sag, opposite Mars in the 12th house. So I'm going to say one thing. Magic. The magic of being like when I have anyone that has 12th house energy, I always say the same thing. I say when you are of service, it pushes away. I'm not gonna say it just like eliminates all of like the difficult karma, but it definitely helps because when we talk about Mars in hard aspect to Neptune, it, especially Mars in 12th house, it creates an energy of confusion and paranoia that can come out in relationships. So there can be lots of like worrying, lots of like kind of insecurities that come out in 12th house. It's very unconscious. So you have like oppositions typically end up being like external, right? Squares are more internal battles, like oppositions like a lot of times are external. So what can happen when Mars is opposite Neptune is that you can be attracted to or not attracted to, but you can kind of like deceptive people can kind of enter your life, like the kind of like psychic energy vampires, right? Because there's usually with this aspect, there's this level of like insecurity, which I talked about before with the Taurus Chiron, right? Which is like kind of how you're trying to heal. And these types of people, they're like vampires. They like see through it, and they basically take advantage of your goodwill, like narcissists and stuff like that, like draining your energy, right? So yeah, it's very, very important to kind of like get like a second opinion, like like if you start dating someone new, like I don't know where you're at with the whole breakup thing, but if you're at the stage where you're looking to date again, or I don't know anything about if you do the follow-up, we can definitely like talk more details and I can understand what's happened, what the situation is, how long you guys were together, this, that, and the third, to get a better idea, even understand his chart a little bit. But a lot of times what happens is that, yeah, with this aspect, if like the shadow work that's been shown all throughout your chart isn't done, like the wrong people are kind of enter, right? One other thing with Mars and Neptune is drugs and alcohol. So what happens here, and I know like I'm like scratching my nose and like drugs and alcohol, I'm looking like Dave Chappelle and his Rick James skit, but I'm just so scratchy. I don't know how my cats are like making me allergic. They never have in the past. But basically, it's all about like self-confidence, right? I keep thinking like how good yoga would be for you. I don't know if you are doing yoga or not, but that would take care of the earth and the fire, like the excess fire and the lack of earth. And meditation, of course, and journaling. But like what can happen with Mars opposite or square Neptune is like oh, my throat. I'm definitely allergic to something. There can be like addiction stuff. There can be this escapist tendency. So it all goes back to like the moral standards, like the internal values that you set for yourself, right? That's like what everything's based off of. And one great way through this aside service is creativity, right? Like it can actually help you build this inner strength and courage. And Gemini Mars is super creative, right? It's like it's very multi-talented. Like you can do this and this and this and this and this and this. Try all these different things, while still having order in your life, right? Because that's what the North Node's asking for you to do, is to take like whatever spiritual or creative gift you have, like, and that's why I say like as a Gemini and Mars, like try everything. You never know what it's going to be, right? And then try to make something of it. Even if you have a job that takes up a lot of your time, like you're a very, like, you have Leo in you have, Leo and Gemini. Like, these are such like like amazing energies for creativity, right? So, expressing yourself is extremely important. Whether it's like even like music, dance. I think they have like dance classes, right? Poetry, like anything where there's like, some high level of self-expression. That's what's going to help. And yeah, I don't know. But like really overall, like Mars and Neptune, like it makes you super empathetic, right? So like you become like already, having water in your chart as you're rising. The rising is more surface. So this one, it makes you very sensitive, very caring. But you just have to remember that you're not meant to like be someone you're not. You're not meant to like live up to some stereotypical image of, of whatever. I don't know. So yeah, it's all about just like kind of like what I was saying before with that the T square like landing in Aquarius, like that transformation, death rebirth transformation that leads you to becoming your own person. 1 second. No. Go out that door. Go out that door. Sorry about that. So yeah, that's the energy of that. So definitely like with escapism, of course. Um okay, I'm back. Short break. So yeah. Sometimes I take little pauses, kind of think about the chart a little bit. So yeah, like one way that the Mars and Neptune can show up is like defending people who shouldn't be defended, kind of like rose-colored glasses in love, self-sabotaging in love, having like paranoia, and just kind of like, I guess, seeing things like not in the correct, through like a kind of distorted lens. And yeah, so now with this, I feel like a 15 minute break. Hi, Mika. When I look at the charts, I see that I understand, like, that having so much Leo, it can be difficult to find, like when you're a double anything, it's sometimes like, okay, like do I find like a double Sag or a double Aries? But no, it's just like it's more of an energy. I wish I knew like why you're, but I actually no, I don't like knowing anything beforehand. But like yeah, I think like the big thing is the communication. With your North Node in the third house, like that's another way to interpret your North Node in the third house in Virgo is like learning, because you're very good at okay, this new download. You see, this is what happens when you take breaks. So you're very, very good at like the big picture, abstract, like ninth house, like big grand philosophies, Pisces, high mysticism, right? But when it comes to like the very basic low level communicating, like, hey, what's up? Like that was a bad example, but you know what I mean? Like low level communicating, that's where there's issues. So in this life, and Saturn's there to teach you, Saturn, the master of the planet of karma, it's literally saying, I'll show you. It's literally saying, like down here, right? This North Node. It's literally, and with black, and also I didn't even see Black Moon Lilith. Yeah, so Black Moon Lilith is also there in Virgo. So now we have another clue that Black Moon Lilith and Virgo, I always think of that as like kind of it's kind of like your lowest energy, your lowest potential energy, right? It's not like an actual energy that you necessarily like manifest. It's just like you at your lowest. And Virgo third house, or excuse me, not Virgo. Yeah, Virgo third house, Black Moon Lilith also would say that there could be some like over idealism. Like I definitely get that. So this is another download I'm getting from you in like relationships is like like potentially moving too fast because the fire, Leo kind of gets excited. But then they're like if it's one kind of relationship, it feels too clingy. Like the Uranus square kind of rebels. And then if it's like, I don't know, like even the right guy, right? Like I said before, like the relationship can feel kind of like a prison. But with the Black Moon Lilith, right, in Virgo, there can be this like constant very being very hard on yourself, like this perfectionism, right? Which can leak into relationships, which can kind of make it so you're always looking for like the perfect partner, right? So sometimes with this opposition of Mars and Neptune, you'll see someone that will appear perfect, as they say, some of the most beautiful people, or like outwardly, they show the best, actually like end up being the worst. And sometimes people that like at the start seem like they're not much, or like they're not going to be like, it's not going to be that deep, they end up being deep. So it's like yeah, it's definitely about obviously the inner work is huge, but then the Black Moon Lilith is like, okay, learning that like you can never be perfect. But like with the North Node being pushed towards this with Saturn, it's like trying to build structures in your life, because I think that like you finding your purpose, because Leo is very purpose driven. So, and if you have, I don't know, have you? Like that'd be a question to answer, but like if you like really found your true purpose, that's really what the North is asking. But really a big part of it has to do with like the low level communication, right? And being able to kind of like learn. So I guarantee like with the Saturn return, because you have Saturn and North Node together around 30, a lot of things fell into place and got a lot easier. When it, like in relation to like finding your voice. But third house Saturn can just inhibit like the voice, and it's also wait, hold up. Yeah, it's also like close to the IC. So like it could also talk about how, the early childhood was like restrictive in some way. And maybe strict parents, something like that, and then this would be like more the volcanic side. But like overall, yeah, that's like the basis is that. But then with relationships, yeah, it's just finding, like as I was saying before, like there's no such thing as the perfect person. You need someone who's gonna like make up for your lack of earth. So who's gonna be like that consistent person, that person you can count on, day after day. Put me back on. That is obviously very, very huge. Because with Mars, like that position, Mars, Gemini, opposite Neptune, yeah, like I said, they're going to be a tendency to go for to go for the ones that look like they might be perfect. They end up being the worst. Do I think this is a trend that you still have? I don't know, because I don't know you. But definitely like it creates an energy where you can be your own worst enemy in love and overall, just like in business or in life, like where you can like self-sabotage. And the way that that's resolved is through either being of service or channeling this energy into high Mars, Neptune at the highest level is like high spirituality or high creativity. Now I found some other accounts of it. So one sec. So Yeah, it says, so this would indicate that you are defending someone who is not telling you the whole story, or it can be that you are sacrificing yourself for a cause that isn't what you think it is. And this is look to where Aries and Pisces are on your natal chart to see what these planets can bring home to their natal houses. So what planets? Oh, Mars and Neptune. So Pisces and Aries. So Pisces is your midheaven. Aries is it's like career energy. So that's like another way based on that, so it's like through going towards that career energy, like that higher dharma energy, you're able to break through, because you're going towards your purpose, right? And then you start to just manifest relationships. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely just a lot of, one of the best things of this is it just makes you so caring, so sensitive. And it is like the person who fights for the underdog. It's just unfortunate in love. But overall, like with this chart, I definitely, midheaven, ruled by Neptune. I think that, like, you benefit a lot from a career that is kind of service based, especially with Neptune in the sixth house, which can make like a 9-to-5 job very, very stressful. I have that also, and goddamn, like, and then also, midheaven in Pisces, it can also be linked to a career that's more spiritual, a career that, where you serve humanity through your career, right? Also, there can be a change of profession, right? Like something where you're chasing your fantasy, right? Like maybe even an imaginative artistic fantasy. And a lot of people that have midheaven in Pisces, they can feel a little bit overwhelmed by their like kind of life purpose. Like, oh my God, like what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? So that's one thing. All right, and then also part of fortune in Cancer in the first, that's kind of like where I think of that as like your flow state, like where your greatest fortune comes from. So yeah, I mean, like it's basically saying like, your greatest fortune in the first house is when you're like kind of showing that self-sufficiency and independence, like I was saying before, being your own mother in a kind of way, like where you are requiring less external validation per se, than, because Leo moons, they tend to really they tend to require a lot of that. And so it's like a spiritual relationship with yourself and others, would bring lots of joy. And in Cancer, it's finding joy through nourishing yourself, but also nourishing others. So also like joy with family and with kids, right? Now, I didn't really talk about Uranus. Uranus in the fifth house. That is interesting. That placement is really, really good for creativity. It gives you this ability to have like this very like unconventional kind of creative way of yourself, like in your creative self. Also like the unusual hobbies, unusual like things you like to do for fun, and like creative pursuits. And when it comes to children, you might have like very like original and unconventional children, like Aquarius kind of children. So Pluto, I went over. Saturn, in third house, like that just usually makes someone just really shy. So you're trying to like, and with your Mercury retrograde, basically you're trying to overcome that shyness and find your true voice, and then channel it into your relationships and into your everyday life that becomes more organized and more based on serving humanity. The second house in Leo, I spoke about all that. With that Mercury retrograde, kind of like it's probably not like hard, like it gets easier after 30, but still, it can make someone quite shy and have like a different way of learning, a different way of seeing the world, and just learning to embrace, that Uranus square with Mercury, learning to embrace your different way of seeing the world. Like, would you want to see the world in the same boring way that so many other people see it? Like, no. And yeah, we obviously talked about moon. I don't need to say any much about the sun, Leo. You know about your sun sign. Jupiter, there is very, very good for optimism. It's like a financial guardian angel. It's also like helping you out in that self-esteem area too. You have lots of things that are like kind of like against you, like for finding the self-esteem. But Jupiter, when you actually dig into your moon, into your emotions, you'll have tons of perspective. It's like looking from the top of a mountaintop and seeing everything, which is amazing. So introspection is like the key for you. And I would journal because you have Mercury on your moon. So boom, and it's retrograde. So it's like the best way to get that energy out, both energies, your emotions and your speech, and connect. You want to connect the throat to the heart chakra is through like something like journaling, or even like filming yourself, right? I know Pisces are like, you do have 12th house planets, so like one of the best ways to get past like some of the self-defeating issues with 12th house planet is to like literally just film yourself or talk in the mirror, doing affirmations, that kind of stuff. So then of course Venus rising, Cancer, like I said, that's the love language you have. Very family oriented, all about forming those very strong emotional bonds. And yeah, Cancer, Venus, definitely, yeah, financial security is important to you. I mean, it's all over your chart, and like Venus rising like gives you like a very strong ability to express beauty, to express love, makes you attractive, gives you a large, very like nice aura, and a very like kind of calm and chill demeanor that's very approachable. So yeah, and I think like I'm trying to think like what else can I tell you about love life. Also, Uranus in the fifth house can create like very unexpected, random, like I don't want to say hookups, but like connections. You know, like yeah. So I'm looking to see if I see any conjunctions with important fixed stars. Nothing so far. Mm. Markov on your midheaven. So let's just pop that up. Let's just end with this. And I want to see with the moon in the so ascendant is 17 Cancer, moon is 15 Leo. '17 Cancer, 15 Leo. Oh, you have Pollux conjunct your Venus. So just a few fixed stars. So Pollux, let's see if it has anything with Venus. So Venus conjunct fixed star Pollux, strong and unregulated passions, danger of seduction of female. Okay. It's very little information. Then this one, Dubé on your moon. Let's see if they have anything about that. They probably don't. And they do not. But it seems like it's very related to wealth, it looks like. There's something about 15 Leo. I need to. Where did what was I thinking? 15 Leo astrology. 15 degrees Leo. Okay. Yeah, so I'm just gonna be real. Like I remember writing this post, and now I researched it. So 15 degrees Leo, where you have your moon, is a really, really like a lot of people see it as like one of the worst positions in the zodiac. Um, I know you're not a killer, but I'm just telling you, you might get a chuckle out of it. That it is like prominent, like 15. I think it was. I have it on one of my old posts. I think it's like 15 and 20, 22 for sure, but God, my eyes are so red. What the heck? It's because I slept 4 hours last night because I had to do my driving test that I missed by one. By 1 point I missed. Um, Let me take a look really quick. Wait, I can just search right here. I think it's called worst degrees. Yeah, so what it says here is one of the worst reasons Zodiac, serial killers, felons serving life sentences in the charts, and I've read this from this is like copy and pasted from somewhere official. In the charts of those who have faded hard luck. Um, Also there's like a something with blindness and issues with seeing. Um, so but the fact that yeah, it's your son, let's see. Same thing. A lot of these people had like Mars, um, or like Pluto or Saturn conjunct it. Okay, here's what I was looking for. Like at least in the okay, why is 15 degrees Leo considered such a negative degree? My friend has Venus, blah blah blah. So not true. IQ gave me a professional, very in-depth natal chart reading, and my son is about a degree away from there. And he didn't mention it all. He rattled off other degrees that are serious and indicate bad things. 15 Leo wasn't one of them though. In fact, that had another astrologer on a different board would proclaim all kinds of really negative things about my chart based on that one aspect alone. And IQ pretty much shut out everything. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so it says 15 Leo is considered to be on a negative fixed star, so is 15 Scorpio. It's impossible to stay without the whole chart, but it can show difficulty in relationships. So there you go. Like this seems like a more measured one and more based on like what I wrote about that I forgot about because I can only write and remember so much. Um, so yeah, she may attract men that are abusive and or manipulative, or she may be that way herself. With the moon, yeah, okay, so that one sounds right. Like attracting, like it goes with the rest of the chart too, right? Just like difficulty in relationships, attracting the wrong kind of men. And yeah, it's a critical degree. And yeah, it's like they're making good points here. Like, so it doesn't mean you'll be violent. People always say, well, I'm not violent, Sarah. It can mean other things, which is why most people shouldn't play around with fixed stars because they don't understand them. I don't know what your traumatic experience, blah, blah, blah. What was your relationship like with your mom? Probably not great with that degree or moon. So yeah, we've already seen that. It's related to the mom also. Or you have very intense and excessively strained relationships with women with lots of animosity. Could be emotional or physical abuse, but more likely emotional because of the moon. You may have had an emotionally abusive relationship with men or men, then they project their violence onto you, or maybe you attract mentally unstable men to you. Stalking is possibly it could be an alcoholic partner. Siblings relations could have been strained, which also you have third house difficult planets there, which is siblings, or you may have lost a sibling or child. That's an example of how it's not always you. Yes, that's a really good point she made. That's why you gotta like look at lots of different places when you're dealing with these like fixed stars or degrees. Yeah, I think it's more about I think it's probably related to like the relationship, like some cycle, and with the 12th house Mars, I think it all kind of makes sense. So last thing I will do, I will just check my other list of stars, and then we'll be out of here. Very long reading. God, I've made like 3 today that were all like I was like, I'm gonna make them an hour, and they've all been like 130 or 140. Okay, you have Urania close to your ascendant, but also is that Hecate? So wow. So that's like really witch energy. Obviously Hecate is like, so you have the asteroid Hecate rising. So what would that mean? There's magic power here, ultimately derived from the deep powers of concentration and manifestation. Hecate relates to the gifts of deep experience and can be a marker of wealth, especially material kind, which is all over your chart. The power constellated by Hecate also seems to have a distinctly sexy quality, which you have Venus rising too. The asteroid can be an important marker of physical attraction when considered chart synastry. Okay. And then Mars, here's one with Mars. Oh, Bellatrix. Isn't that a good one? And Capello. Oh, wow. So you have some of the wealth stars on your Mars. I know that Capella is it's 1 degree from your Mars. That's a wealth star. So you see, we're seeing some good ones. Besides that, I don't see. Oh, here's one more. Yeah, we already saw Pollux. And then here's one on your Saturn, Zosma. That's like about like astrology. It's a very spiritual one. And one on your descendant, Rukbot. And I was gonna read Markab, because Markab, you had it on your midheaven. Let's see if it has anything about it there. Okay, it doesn't show anything. So yeah, Pollux. So that is pretty much everything. I want to just look at Capella astrology and Bellatrix astrology. I haven't been doing as much like deep diving into the fixed stars lately, but you got lucky today, my friend. And remember, these are just like little additions. The Capella I know is very like good for money. But with Mars, we never know. So yeah, it says Mars conjunct Capella, which you have closely. Intellectual, learned talents. Okay. Wait. No, I was wrong. Talents wasted on low subjects. So intellectual, learned, and then talents wasted on low subjects. But then like Arnold Schwarzenegger has this in The Rock, so it's like, And then Bellatrix, which is even closer, the last one I will read before ending this reading. It literally says, strength, energy, success as a soldier, surgeon, or metal worker, liable to accidents. This brings out anger in the individual. It also brings out hostility as well as aggressiveness. They like to lead others into fights. There's much creative energy here, but is usually brought out in a violent manner. Okay. It could be someone that works like a surgeon, like a butcher, like works with a knife. And it's like a violent energy, they say. And they're disruptive and seldom stay in a conservative lifestyle. It is recommended these persons join some type of like martial arts group, which I said earlier, didn't I? So cool. Anyways, that is it. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed this extended reading, nearly 2 hours. And I hope to do a follow-up with you. Let me know if you're interested, and talk later. Ciao.